Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're covering all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on tap today, and two of the best we have here in the city to break it down for you. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Ricardo, LeCompte of Channel 4, WLAE-TV Sports. Guys, welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys back. Before we get started, both your stations have a lot of great sports programming. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, tonight is, Thursday. I know there's many rebroadcasts of the show all the way through the weekend, but on Thursday night, we do Final Bet, our gambling show. So we got that tonight. Then Sunday we wrap up everything on Final Play, and then on Tuesdays we have Fox 8 Overtime, where it's pretty much just like the four of us just yapping for 30 minutes. Pretty much what we do here, just like picking all the subjects out. And then once football season starts, we're up to 4 hours of programming a week. Wow. So we call this the off season. Yeah. We got an hour and a half of programming a week, but it'll heat up very soon with Saints training camp right on the block. I'll leave for Nashville this weekend for SEC Media Days. No more Hoover. No. Thank goodness. Yes. I don't like Hoover that much.
Nashville's going to be fun.
Nashville's going to be cool. Last year was in Atlanta, which I thought was really awesome. Yeah. This year is in Nashville. They haven't announced where it's going in 2024, but I like they're moving around because Hoover, I know Hoover was like 4.5 hour drive, so for like Ricardo and us and all our stations, it's very easy to drive to. Right. But I like that they're mixing it up and they're in Nashville and they're bringing Jaden Daniels. Yeah. So like they're bringing like the big ballers here. Yeah. This isn't like just like some linemen and like a linebacker. Sure. They're bringing Jaden Daniels and Josh Williams and Mekhi Wingo.
And they're first out the box next week, right?
Yeah, they're all, you know what? They've been first at, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. They've been out first at the box like the last 6 or 7 years in a row. Yeah. So it makes it easy. You roll up on Sunday, they talk Monday morning into the afternoon, and then you can leave back on Tuesday morning, and I'm back in New Orleans Tuesday afternoon. So it's like boom, bang. So I'm going to go up a little early to go to Nashville and check it out. I haven't been to Nashville since Jimmy Graham was playing tight end for the New Orleans Saints.
It's changed.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
My daughter lives in Nashville. Yeah. It's believe me, buildings going everywhere. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, they're getting a new football stadium. They're trying to get a Major League Baseball team. They got a new soccer stadium. So, yeah, I haven't been there since, goodness, when they played the Tennessee Titans with Jimmy Graham at tight end. So I'm fired up to, like, check it out for a couple of days.
That entertainment district is French Quarter on steroids, right?
Yeah, I was there. 2005 was the last time. So similar, around that time period. And just the growth, because I've known some people who've lived there. And I think the exponential growth in the last 15, 20 years in Nashville, like, it's out the box.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I wish we were doing that. unfortunately, right?
Cranes in the sky, right?
Cranes in the sky. We were promised them. Where was Blakely at? Where's he at?
We were heard about cranes. Yeah, we never got our cranes.
He must be in Nashville. He must be in Nashville. Football, the blog is?
You're a big fan of the football.
I love it. Anybody who puts time into a blog, I'm going to hype it.
Somebody told me, he goes, I like your football stuff and your food stuff. I don't like the soccer part of it. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I can't call it just football and food. So, yeah, football, food. And I get to write a lot more in the summertime. Once football starts, it's a lot harder there. Yeah. But, I enjoy writing about food and football and all that.
Ricardo, welcome back.
Hey.
Again, you were in Omaha.
I was.
How was that?
It was great. I got there in the midway point of, I think, that Thursday when LSU and Wake Forest were playing each other to determine who would go to the College World Series Finals. Brooke Kirchhofer and I kind of swapped. She had a vacation coming up, so we had to do that. So a little tag team tagged me in to do that. So I got to cover that game, which was a fantastic game between Paul Skeens and Rhett Lauder, two future major leaguers, probably two future Major League Baseball All-Stars. Yeah. They pitched phenomenally. It was a fantastic game. Of course, LSU wins it to move on to the College World Series. And that 3-game series against Florida, man, it was fun. The most memorable thing that I remember in Omaha, it was Baton Rouge North. I mean, it was like the entire state of Louisiana took over Omaha for that final 3 games, and it was incredible. And kind of talking to the people in Omaha, it's been since 2017, last time LSU went. And everybody, whether you were talking to anybody in the food and beverage industry, whether it was bartenders or restaurant people, they were like, "We're so glad LSU's back," because they will not only come and party, they're spending the money in that city. It was a party nonstop, and of course, when they won it on Monday night, it was crazy. All around the ballpark there at Charles Schwab Field, all the little bars and restaurants were full. They won the Jello Shot Challenge. That was crazy. Every day that Rocco's was filled. It was a great time, and of course, we got to see LSU win the national championship. They're 7th. Yeah, 4, 6, and 8 were all there. They all did a great job in covering it. And then speaking of Channel 4, tell us all about the great programming there. Yeah, we've got sportscasts every day, 5, 6, and 10. Sunday nights, 4th Down on 4, 10:35. We're kind of, again, it's off season, as Garland mentioned, so we're kind of just ramping up to Saints training camp, which will start in 2 weeks. We're there weekly, and then, of course, our specials start kicking off, and we have Saints training camp special, an LSU football special coming up, of course, the Saints special. That's all coming up in the next couple months. Beautiful. Guys, thanks for being here today. We'll start off with the Saints and Alvin Kamara with his plea. Again, he pleaded to a misdemeanor charge of breach of peace in Las Vegas court the other day. He has to complete 30 hours of community service within, I think, a 30-day period, which is interesting. $105,000 plus of restitution to the victim, also a $500 fine, and also the civil suits were settled as well. Guys, the next question for Kamara is, what will the NFL do? The video was very brutal. It was damning. The video in the vehicle when they got in the SUV afterwards, when one of his entourage was berating him for getting involved in the fight, and he turned around and I'm paraphrasing him and said, "I just couldn't help myself," or "I can't help myself." I think that also is going to be an issue. And it was an NFL-sanctioned event with the Pro Bowl. So I think those are a lot of the components that we have to look at when you start talking about what could be a suspension. I've said maybe 4 games on my radio show. I'd like to get you guys' take on the whole scenario and then how long you think he'll be out. Yeah, the baseline is, 6 games for what he did. This is his first offense. Right. This isn't like a bad guy in the NFL. Okay, true. Alvin Kamara is well known in the community, well liked by everyone. I think 4 games would be very fair. I know there's an appeal process also if he doesn't like what it is. I think the appeal process, I think it would take 2 weeks after. I'm intrigued. I'm glad, I'm sure for all parties involved, they're glad that this is over with now. Yes. So now they can focus on actually the suspension, so we can't have this hanging over, and at least the Saints can prepare. You would hope before the season starts that we finally know, so they can hold them out to which games, because you didn't want this thing dragging into the season, because the court date was July 30th, which was getting really close. Right into camp, right? Yeah, right into camp, and is going to go into September. So I think it was a smart idea by all involved that they got it over with now. I think first offense, first time he's ever done this. This isn't a guy that's had multiple suspensions already. I think 4 games would be very fair for Alvin Kamara. It was a felony. It's been announced a misdemeanor. That's a big thing on the court side, but maybe not so much on the NFL side, because again, they have the video evidence, and also it was during an LSU sanctioned, an NFL sanctioned event. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen here? Yeah, those are the 2 points that I think when the NFL goes and tries to look at this case as in totalitarian, it's going to be where it's around that 4-6 games. Now, if you look at past
suspensions for personal conduct policy violations. If you're at that 6 to 8, usually you've seen like the domestic violence stuff. So like Kareem Hunt, when he had that damning video of him hitting that woman in the hotel, he had 8 games. Most of the domestic violence stuff is around that 6 games. Kamara has the video and all that evidence, like it's clear to see like what happened, where he can kind of go to that 6. It may go to 4, and when you're looking back at some of the suspensions, I think 2008, it was a Minnesota offensive lineman, Brian McKinney, had 4 games for an assault outside a bar. It was a big bar fight outside, and that's kind of where it may fall from that 4 to 6, where it's his first offense. It was dropped from a felony to a misdemeanor. So maybe that's where it kind of falls, from that 4 to 6. I don't see anything longer than 6. I don't think it warrants that. I don't think it's going to be less than 4. 4 to 6 is where it is. I think 4 is probably, as Garland would say, I think that's kind of where the baseline, or where you start with Alvin Kamara's suspension.
He's got an appeal, as Garland said. If you're Kamara and they give you 4, do you appeal it, or do you just say, look, that's probably the best I'm going to get at this point, and then let's get it over with in the first 4 games of the season, so I'm fresh for the stretch run? How do you think the Saints and Kamara play this?
Well, if Alvin's already pretty much settled this stuff out of court and pretty much admitted to this,
the apology,
and the apology, and going to pay the medical bills for the victim, it almost feels like he's already accepted that this is going to happen. And if he gets anywhere from 4, it almost feels like, hey, I got off from a 6-game suspension. I might as well serve this and get this out of the way. I don't think he's going to probably prolong it, or even that appeal. As you mentioned, it's going to take some time if he puts that appeal once that suspension comes down. You're missing more time. And even if it does go into the start of the season and you're waiting for that appeal, if you're still waiting around and then it hits you, then it's like, all right, so like I got to play a game and then I'm out for 4. Might as well just get out of the way and be fresh for that 13-game run after that 4-game suspension.
Garland, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, if it's 4 games, I would take it and move on there. And you know, the front part of the schedule is favorable for some wins, especially with the Tennessee Titans in Week 1. I don't think they're as strong as they used to be. You got Bryce Young in Week 2, a rookie who's going to be still trying to find his way. I think the schedule's favorable on that front end. So if they find out in training camp, you know, I'm really intrigued to see how Kendre Miller, because Jamal Williams looks like he's ready to roll. Okay, he's ready to like tear it up there. He's talking the talk. Kendre missed rookie minicamp, missed OTAs, missed minicamp. I say missed. He was there. He was on the sideline. I'm really intrigued to see how, if he can be ready to roll for Game 1, that will definitely you know, lessen the blow a little.
Well, they're anticipating that, right?
They said he's gonna be ready. Dennis Allen said only 1 player will not be ready for the beginning of training camp, possibly. And I thought it would be more on Nick Saldiveri. You know, his seemed a little more serious. Though Trevor Penning's been, you know, he's been dealing with an issue, Cesar Ruiz. So if there's only 1 guy, that's pretty good for the New Orleans Saints. If we're trusting what Dennis Allen said. So yeah, they said Kendre Miller back for the beginning of training camp. I mean, he's lightning in a bottle. If you get him, you got Jamal Williams. You're looking pretty good, and you run Taysom Hill out there, and he could play more running back on the front end. So you got some options early. So it's 4. Yes, I say roll with it.
I like what they've done with the running back room. I think they anticipated this. They got Eno Benjamin too. They picked up late last year. I think they're in a position, if no one gets injured, that they can maybe again be able to tread water until he comes back. Now look, he does a lot for them, Kamara. When he's about catching the ball in the backfield, the decoy, his ability to run between the tackles outside. But I think they prepared themselves for this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of upgrading that running back room, because if you went with what the running back room was prior to the end of last season, they were going to be in trouble missing Alvin Kamara for a significant time. And I think that's the biggest part of what the Saints are going to miss is Alvin Kamara's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And remember, he's so good at those choice routes. That's what kills any defense when you're trying to defend that. And he's able to, you know, manipulate whoever's on him, whether it's a linebacker or maybe it's a nickel corner. He can beat him, which, you know, very few running backs can. The one, I guess, reservation I have is, can Jamal Williams keep the same production that he had last year? Now, I know he had a career high in touchdowns, and most of those were short yardage touchdowns. I don't anticipate that number to be the same this year, but if he can at least have that same production he had in that Detroit offense, then that's a good sign. Kendre Miller also, anytime you talk about a knee and a running back, you know, even though, you know, Dennis Allen has said he'll be ready by training camp, I anticipate when we start training camp that he's not at 100%. Like, he'll participate, but he'll be held out of certain drills, because you've got to kind of bring along slowly knee injuries, and if he's not full go by the start of the season, then yes, you may need Benjamin. Maybe you do have to rely on Taysom Hill a little bit. I'm glad they upgraded the room, but again, it's not to a point where I'm like, man, they're fine to lose Alvin Kamara for 4 games. There's still kind of maybe some issues that could linger with that suspension.
Guys, what do you think this offense is going to look like under Derek Carr?
Well, I think it's going to be much improved. I mean, I'm not going to bag Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, a former Florida State alum like Ricardo there. But I like Derek Carr. I mean, you can see the optimism we were talking about on the betting show. I mean, their over-under on wins is already 9.5. They're favored to win the NFC South. I don't know if that's a reflection of just how bad it is right now in Tampa with Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, and then a rookie at Carolina with Bryce Young. But, I mean, everything is optimistic when it comes to the betting lines, and I think that Derek Carr, you've seen it in OTAs, you've seen it in mandatory minicamp. I mean, he's getting on the same page with Michael Thomas. They're talking about routes when they're going over to the side. They're working through a lot of things. I think he's a major upgrade at quarterback, and I think he's the kind of guy that can galvanize them to get back in the playoffs, because last season, man, I don't want to cover that again. That 7-10 season, that offense was stale, and I mean, I covered some bad games last season. The Ravens game was terrible. There was just some nasty games last year.
Yeah, you could tell some of those games, you know, when you got to the second half, just how stagnant the offense was under Andy Dalton. Yes, it is an upgrade to a point where, and I had this question the other day, just, you know, from a casual Saints fan, like, how good are they going to be this year? And I'm kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, well, they've upgraded the quarterback position, which is key.
Agreed.
But I don't feel like the Saints are a Super Bowl champion contender. I think they're a playoff team.
Right.
How far do they get in playoffs? It all depends on matchups and who's injured and who whatever. It is an upgrade, and that's what they need to do address in the offseason to get that position solidified. And they have that with Derek Carr, a guy who has been in this league for a few years, a guy who is a leader, a guy, when you're seeing, as you're mentioning in the offseasons, what Garland was saying, he's a guy who not only is grasping the offense, but is already doing what he needs to do to be the leader of this team. Like, you see him out there with Michael Thomas when he was there for that for that OTA session, how they're trying to get on the same page, and how they're trying to figure out him working with Alvin Kamara when they're trying to, you know, get that relationship going. He has those intangibles that they needed at the quarterback position, and he's got the arm talent to a sense that was better than what Andy Dalton had. But I don't think that elevates the Saints to a spot where they're like, man, they can challenge the Chiefs. They can probably be better than the Ravens, like beating good teams in the AFC. Could they be one of the top teams in the NFC? Well, that remains to be seen. I don't think they're near the Eagles. I think Philly's still going to be the favorites going in. But certainly, they're a playoff team because of the upgrade at quarterback. But I don't think we can sit here today and go, man, the Saints are one of the favorites to win it all.
Yeah. When I look at position groups, obviously quarterback's been upgraded when you bring in Carr. I think the tight end position has really been upgraded with Foster Moreau. I think Jesse James is going to have a real chance to make this roster as well. Wide receiver, I think there's question marks still because you have to worry about whether Michael Thomas is going to be healthy or not. But I think the biggest question mark on this offense is the offensive line. Can they stay healthy, number one? And then number two, are guys going to take the next step in their careers? You know, what's going to be the situation with Andres Pete? Ruiz, can he take the next step? What's going on with Trevor Penning? Is he going to stay healthy? And then, of course, you know, Ramczyk is missing so many practices now because of the knee injury. Really, the only guy that you've got that you can count on right now is the center. What are your thoughts on position groups and maybe the big question mark that you'll be looking at as you go into camp?
Well, they want, I think everything is pointing to, they want Trevor Penning to be the starting left tackle. You know, James Hurst, they can kick him back inside. I think that it hurt that Saldivari got hurt. I think they expected some out of him this season. You still got Throckmorton. So you have other guys that can fill in. But you're right. If one of these starters goes down, it's a mess. I mean, when Eric McCoy was out last year at center, it was they were getting crushed on the offensive line.
A lot of that's because why? You have to move one guy into another spot and then you flip it another guy, so you're really moving two positions when that happens, right?
Yeah. And for years, people have questioned, is Andres Pete 100% in? You know, he's injured every season. You hope that Ruiz gets back there. It's injury issues with that entire offensive line. And I think that's kind of like the league, though. You know, to have a completely healthy offensive line is almost unheard of.
Right.
But yeah, there could be some influx. I mean, Ruiz is in the last year of his contract. This might be Andres Pete's last season.
His last year, his deal too.
Yeah, and Trevor Penning. I think Trevor Penning is going to be a big key to this team. 2 foot injuries already? That's kind of scary. 2 of them so far. I think that's one of the. I know there's a lot of people like to do position battles. I think that's one of like the top 3 ones. Yeah. I know the Adebo, Alontae Taylor one's getting a ton of run at cornerback, but I think James Hurst and Trevor Penning will be definitely one to watch at left tackle.
Right. I think they'd like to have Hurst as their utility guy if possible.
Yeah, I was just going to say James Hurst is that guy that they could do a plug and play when those injuries are going to happen. Right. It's almost like you almost have to like prepare yourself every season and go, you're going to to lose Andrew Speed, or you're going to lose a guard, and
Right.
lose,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and that's kind of the issue. And even with Ryan Ramczyk, I know we haven't talked about that, but when we saw kind of the way that the Saints have handled him throughout the season, it's like he doesn't practice, Wednesday, Thursdays. He's usually limited, and he's go on game days, and he's good to go. But it's like, with that knee and it's everything else, and it's one of those, like, how long do you have left of having that right tackle solidified for Ryan Ramczyk, and how many more years does he have? So that gets to a point down the road where the Saints have to address that tackle in at the right tackle, because you don't know how much mileage you have left on Ryan Ramczyk. But yeah, offensive line is always going to be an issue moving in this offseason, moving into training camp, and again, I'm kind of one of those where it's like, all right, if you can get a set amount of games from Andrew Speed, if you can get Cesar Ruiz to take that next step, if Eric McCoy can stay solid at center, and then you have, a left tackle, if Trevor Penning is healthy with that foot, it could be a really good unit. That has the potential to be, but so far, kind of like all signs are pointing that it's not going to be the case. So how do the Saints kind of prepare for that? How is James Hurst going to be kind of that guy that's going to plug in when there's a lot of injuries? And those questions at guard and at tackle, it is going to be, as Garland mentioned, injuries. It's going to be health. That's going to be a key.
Guys, I wonder what Pete Carmichael we're going to see as well. Are we going to see the Pete Carmichael that, again, everybody was raving about when Peyton was suspended and the offense was still, again, running at a high level? Of course, Breeze was a quarterback. Or are we going to see the guy that we were last year? You were just scratching your head on some of the play calls and situational football. He's got a better quarterback. He looks like he's got better tools. Will he be a better play caller?
Well, you know who makes you look like a genius? The quarterback. Okay,
Right.
I think Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael look like a genius for so many years because they had Drew Brees.
Right.
And now Pete Carmichael went more to the middle when you have the Andy Daltons and the Jameis Winstons. They brought in John Gruden this offseason to kind of pick his brain on what he's done with Derek Carr in the past. I just think he has a better quarterback at his disposal, and I think things would have to improve. The thing I also want to know is how they're going to use Taysom a little more this season. The things like that happened in the Cleveland game, like that one just still blows my mind. They didn't wait till the second. They waited till the second half.
Yeah.
That, like, you knew they should have got the ball to Taysom, and they waited till the second half, and he absolutely destroyed them, and they won the game. But you're like, why did they wait so long? So there's still a lot of question marks about Pete Carmichael. I mean, I thought we thought he was gone.
I did.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the slam dunks this offseason.
Right.
I mean, he didn't want the job in the first place.
Exactly.
Dennis Allen had to talk him into being the offensive coordinator. I thought he was gone. I'm surprised he's back.
Right.
But now he has a really good quarterback. He's going to have some great options there. I mean, if Michael Thomas is healthy,
Right.
If this Kamara suspension's low, you got some great running backs in Jamal Williams and Kendra Miller. Rashid Shaheed is coming along. Chris Olave is one of the best wide receivers, I think, in the NFL, top 10, 15. Everything is there. I think it'll make him look better when you got a great quarterback, just like Sean Payton and Carmichael did with Brees.
I think it's a great point because, again, we'd have no idea how many times that year that the play went in from Carmichael and Brees checked out, right? We have no idea. But your thoughts, because, again, that was one of the keys in the offseason. What were you going to do with the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, and again, and to that same point, Pete Carmichael did not want that job. They were trying to, figure out what they were going to do with the offensive coordinator position, and then in the offseason, he wants to come back. He's retained, so it's like, okay, so this is what we have moving forward. When you're looking at, we're talking about weapons at his disposal. I think Michael Thomas is key to this offense as well. It's such a great outlet for a quarterback to have when a guy who can pick up 7-8 yards, in situations, especially in those third downs where you had those third 5s and 6s, where, in the past it was like Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, especially in that 4-year window, they were picking up those third downs all the time because it was an easy 8, 7, 9 yard slant and they get a first down. If Michael Thomas is healthy, that will help this offense alleviate some of that stuff, and I think that's what's been missing from this offense the last 2 years and why we've seen those struggles. And again, there's an upgrade at the quarterback position with Derek Carr, and I think a big thing is they upgraded the tight end position. So Foster Moreau coming in is also a big addition, a nice little safety valve for Derek Carr, which he had in Oakland/Las Vegas. Now he's going to have here in New Orleans. I think we'll see more options for the offense because I think we've been very limited to what Pete Carmichael can call and what was at the disposal of both Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. If all those weapons are healthy, then I think maybe we'll see a little bit more flow, a little bit more rhythm in this offense this year.
With $14 million to spend left, I am surprised that they have not upgraded the defense a little bit more. And let me say this, maybe another defensive end, a veteran defensive end. Another linebacker, okay? I think you're good at the cornerback position. We'll see again how things shake out with the safety position in camp. But I think those are two positions that are dying for an influx of some veteran talent to backfill those positions. Your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, and the linebacker spot, and you feel like, all right, Demario Davis has been on the field. You know, he took all 100% snaps last year on the defense, so you have some reliability there. You don't have to worry about any issues there. But man, if he gets hurt, like, what are you running with, you know? And you know, when you saw kind of some of the offseason moves and what happened there, you would like a little bit more depth there. Does Zach Bond take that next step? And that's what we've been waiting for, because I mean, he was such a good rusher when he was at Wisconsin. We haven't seen any of that because he's had to learn how to be the drop back linebacker and cover. But we haven't really seen him utilizing his strength, which is rushing the passer. And maybe we'll see that. And then when you shift over to the defensive end, Cam Jordan's had that same production. And again, we could keep doubting each year we go and like, Cam, is this it? Like, is this the final time where we're going to see the gas finally run out of the tank with him? And he just seems to always, take it up another notch this year. And I expect the same thing for him in that same production. But outside of that, where do you have that? Marcus Davenport experiment didn't work. Do you need somebody else you just need another person to just kind of take that edge and those double teams off of Cam Jordan? Hopefully you kind of see that this year. Maybe we'll see a Tano Passanio step up. Maybe we can, finally see somebody who can alleviate some of that. But yeah, those are two spots, like you said, that I think they could have used a little additional depth.
Foskey, you got Peyton Turner, who's been a bust so far. You hope that Passanio. I mean, to me, that's got to be. If you go into the preseason and you're not getting production, you got to make a move at some point to be able to kind of backfill that defensive end position. But as you look at this defense, if there are holes, where are they?
Well, yeah, and on the defensive end side, you've taken big swings with Marcus Davenport, and Peyton Turner missed, and your possibly starter could be Carl Granderson, who was undrafted out of Wyoming.
Great point. Who's gotten better every year, right?
He is, but it almost shows you, you put in so much real estate in these big-time draft picks, and they're not working out. And then the guy that you undrafted pulled out. I mean, has done really well for him. You think with Foskey, you hope that solves the problem with Isaiah Foskey. I expect they're going to try to get him out there early. Also, I think you make a great point, Eric. Pete Warner's not playing 17 games. I couldn't get a bet at Caesar Sportsbook right now that he'll play 17 games. Like and behind him we got Andrew Dow. Right.
Jackson, the draft choice from last year.
Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
You're still.
Who was it?
App State. Wait, no.
Nephi Sewell.
Nephi Sewell, right.
Right. Who are those guys? You're like, man, that's going to be the dude. He's going to take in for Pete Warner. I think that's that is the scariest position.
I mean, Quan Alexander's on the street right now still. Okay, I'm not saying again he's the answer, but I mean he knows the defense, etc. I looked at the list yesterday. There are still quality players that are out on the defensive side that if you needed to plug and play someone, you could do it if they wanted to spend that money.
Yeah, that's because Pete Warner's not playing 17 games.
No, he's not.
And Demario Davis, I mean, he's just an Iron Man. Him and Cam Jordan are like indestructible.
It's like Ricky Jackson 2.0.
Yeah,
he doesn't come off the field.
He doesn't. So I feel like you're locked in on him and with Demario. But sometimes Demario is gonna. It's gonna happen sooner. You don't. I mean, it hasn't. It hadn't happened with Cam. I mean, Cam missed the game because of COVID. I mean, that was one of the only games he's missed in his career. So yes, I say the linebackers because I think the secondary. I think they've done some major upgrades there. I think the cornerback positions they have some good group there. The slot corner and I think safety. I think with Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu, they're looking good in the back end. So I think those are all fine. You're right. Defensive end and linebacker are kind of scary right now.
I do want to ask about defensive tackle. If this team stops the run, they're a really good defense. Have they done enough with what they've done in the offseason with Shepard, Saunders, and then Brissy coming in?
Well, it's probably you got your veterans and you got your talented first-round pick there. So it looks like you filled the holes there. But again, it's also that unproven thing. And we're going to see how much the Saints miss Ryan Nielsen. I think that's going to be the big key there because I think he did a lot of developing those defensive linemen to play up, I think, above their ability when you're seeing like a David Onyemata play out of this world, when you're seeing other defensive tackles, being able to plug and play Malcolm Roach to somebody that's able to contribute. I think that's where we're going to see where they've got the guys that they feel like can do it, but are they going to be coached right? Are they going to be, and I think Ryan Nielsen could end up being a big loss for the Saints moving forward.
Plus, going to a division opponent as well.
Man, how many former Saints are with the Falcons right now in the front office? The coaching and former players there. It's crazy to see what's going on there.
I did want to ask one more question about special teams. Last year, both the punter and the kicker, again, a little bit shaky at times. They have some camp fodder in there now. Is it going to be a situation where Lutz and Gillen come back? Will we see Gillen be more clutch? Can Lutz refine his form? Or is this a situation where they're going to be searching for a kicker? Because that's been a big part of the downfall of the Saints these last couple of years as well, inconsistency with the special teams.
Yeah, well, that kicking spot is going to be really intriguing there. The rookie that's coming in is definitely going to be pushing Will Lutz into training camp. Lutz came out of nowhere to get the job, and it's been very strong at the position. But you know what? This might be the end there. When you got a fresh rookie coming in that's hitting 59-yarders in training or in.
He looked good in minicamp, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Will Lutz. Remember, it was when he had to have the core surgery. I think he's still trying to remember this is second year from that core surgery. So let's see if he does get after his form. But I think what saved Will Lutz last year was the year prior when they cycled through all those kickers and they couldn't even make an extra point. So you're like, all right, well, we've got Will Lutz in there. But now I think the Saints were smart to make it a competition in training camp and just push Will Lutz at least, to be like, hey, it's not solidified. It's not guaranteed that you're going to be the place here coming into the season. So you're going to have to kind of earn it and show that, hey, I've kind of got over the yips, if you will, from last season and some of the misses that we normally haven't seen him miss. I think Will Lutz will end up being the starter when we start in week 1, but certainly any competition in training camp to kind of get him back on track is certainly good.
Yeah. It's big year for Dennis Allen and his staff this year. I mean, again, I get it that the organization is loyal to him, but you can't have another non-playoff year.
No, and I didn't think he was going to get fired for last season, but there was some Sean Payton talk returning there. Yeah. I mean, Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland, those guys are all safe, okay?
Yeah.
Mickey Loomis is going nowhere.
Job for life.
Yeah, he's done his time, and he is paid very well for it. No, they missed the playoffs this year with Derek Carr as the starting quarterback. If it goes bad, I mean, if it goes 6-11, 7-10 again, it could be a little scary situation for Dennis Allen.
Yeah, and I could give you a pass for the first year, especially when you had, quote, Sean Payton's guys.
That's a great point.
Remember, he's overhauled that staff. He's got all his defensive guys. It's all his guys. He's got a quarterback he wants. This is his team. And if he doesn't do well with this team, then yes, now you can start looking going, maybe you aren't the guy for the job.
I would agree. Ricardo LeCompte of Channel 4 Sports, Garland, Gillen, Fox 8 Sports are our guests today. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll be right back after these messages from our underwriters. Stay tuned.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Acadian Custom Shutters is locally owned and operated, specializing in interior and exterior shutters and window coverings, as well as awnings and patio covers. Acadian Custom Shutters offers American products with personal service and workmanship, serving the South Shore, North Shore, and Mississippi Gulf Coast. More information is available at 985-893-3119 or AcadianCustomShutters.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Ricardo, LeCompte of Channel 4 Sports are our guests today. All right, let's talk a little Pelicans. Before we get into the team, let's talk about Zion. He's back in the news again. Went on Gilbert Arenas' podcast this week in Las Vegas. Ended up sitting courtside at the Pelicans Summer League game on the same, I guess, the day after. He made some comments about trying to mature. He made some comments about maybe surrounding himself with older people with more wisdom. He talked about the issues that he had in terms of dieting, saying that again he's 22, he's got all the money in the world, and at least it feels like it. So it's been very difficult for him to be able to stay on a diet. Talked about again how he wants to stay in shape this year, going the LeBron James route with using the bands and stuff like that instead of again constantly worrying about again dieting and having to do the training stuff that the Pelicans want. Guys, I thought he was honest in front of those ex-NBA players. There was a time in that podcast where you felt like maybe this guy is getting it now in terms of maturity, because the problem with Zion that is now coming really into full light is his lack of maturity. Unwilling to be able to put the time in to be able to stay in shape when he has to rehab, understanding again his weight issues, his off the field personal life, which again obviously again is probably again not giving him the time that he needs to put in to be a professional. We saw C.J. McCollum talk about it at the end of the season. Larry Nance now comes to his aid this week, saying that again he's working out, that he's putting in the time. And it looks like Larry Nance is maybe taking over a mentorship role for Zion Williamson. All that is check. The question is it real?
First off, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there.
Right.
Gilbert Arenas has a podcast?
What is like 5 NBA players? What is that?
Yeah.
Was that Xavier McDaniel with a crown on his head?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
everybody, man, I didn't even know Gilbert Arenas was still
Actually, Gilbert's been in the game for a while in the podcast.
Oh, has he? Dude, I have a lot of podcasts I listen to. I did not know Gilbert. Like, I jog every day. I listen to his podcast.
And he's an interesting character. So
Agent Zero. His nickname was Hibachi back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. I apologize. But at least Zion, first off, admitting you have a problem is the first way to like figuring out the solution.
Exactly.
But I will say this also: Zion has been a star since he was in high school. Mm-hmm. And when you get people around you, you get a bunch of yes men. People that will just whatever you want.
Right.
They'll never say anything negative to you. They just want to be around you. And,
pancakes at 3 a.m.? Come on, bring them in, Zion. No problem.
And I think he's got a lot of yes men around him.
Yeah.
I mean, his stepfather seems like a fantastic person. Right. He's helped him a lot, but I don't know how negative he gets around Zion there. When this stuff came out on Twitter with, the woman.
Right.
And he said, I'm 100% behind him.
Right.
He's always got his back, but I don't know when he's ever not had his back, in private. And I think he needs people to tell him, because the Pelicans, obviously it's not working with the Pelicans.
No.
David Griffin can tell him everything he wants, you're out of shape, this and that. It ain't working, okay? He ain't listening to them. Aaron Miller is now gone, who is, the medical staff.
Right.
Those guys are gone now, that Christian Clark reported. So they're getting people in. Everybody around Zion is trying to help this guy out. Maybe he's finally figuring that out. He's like, man, I think I kind of messed up off the court. I'm the butt of many jokes right now. People keep making fun of my weight. I mean, Charles Barkley has been relentless on him the last year. He's about to start his max contract. Right. Something needs to change sooner or later. Maybe, he didn't enjoy that every single time Shams Charania was talking about him, he was talking about him possibly being in a trade. I mean, that kind of hurts your morale a little when, people are talking about getting rid of you.
Right, but again, 20, 22, 18, whatever, all that money, supposed to have the support system. Maybe it's not there, and then maybe he's not listening to the support system. And then, look, it's like at some point, maybe you're tuning out the team, like Garland was saying. All that is fine. Is he ready to mature? Because again, he's lost his first 4 years because of injury and lack of maturity.
Yeah, I think he's always had that kind of ability to mature. And again, before I even get into my little Zion rant here, when you're paid like he is paid, when you are the face of the franchise. Yes, you're held to a different standard. I get that. As I was thinking, when you're 22 years old, what were you doing at 22? All right, I just got out of college.
Right.
Eric, what were you doing at 22?
Oh my God. You guys don't want to know what
Now imagine someone puts in like $100 million and you can do anything.
I'm Zion Williamson. I'm going crazy like he went crazy.
You know what? I may be a little overweight. You know what?
I'm
pay me $100 million.
I'm having pancakes at 3 a.m. because you can't tell me I can't.
Your pancakes sound good at 3 a.m.
Right. So at 22, like that's why it's like I don't get to this point where I'm going to chastise Zion to that fact, because there is. At 22, you're not going to get the maturity. Now, again, as I said, all the stuff where you're paid, you're the star, you have to do that. I've got to know Zion and his family when I was in Greenville, when he was in at Spartanburg Day. And I remember the one meeting I talked to his mom and to his stepdad, and they came in for an interview at the station that we were working with. And from just talking to him, he's a guy who, like, he wanted to make sure that he does right for his parents, like his mom and his stepdad. Stepdad is somebody he's in charge. He's running the show. He's going to make sure that, Zion's protected. At the same time, you're not, I'm going to put the right people around him. And his mom is a very, another person, like the former athletes, they get it. They get this whole thing. And he was a star since a freshman at Spartanburg Day with all the highlights that he had. So he has understood this spotlight. It's another thing when, all right, now we throw you into a professional organization. Now we're giving you this money. And I sometimes do fault the Pels a little bit for not holding the reins and going, we have a kid here, essentially. Right. We may have to treat him a little differently. Not so much that he's a star different, but he's an 18-year-old different. So we got to make sure that we rein him in, make sure that we're kind of doing this. And I don't think they allowed it. I think they let Zion do what he wants to do. Now it gets to a point where, like, yes, the injuries have piled on. The weight has been an issue. The being in shape and all that has been that. And I think he wants to do right. And you can see this even on the podcast, like admitting the problem, admitting that, like, hey, at my age, I understand that I have not done the right things, and I need to kind of move forward. And it's sincere enough that he wants to do that. And I expect for that to happen. I know that we haven't seen, and the big thing is it's the durability. I mean, if you want to criticize the off the court stuff, the Mariah Mills tweets, all that other stuff, okay, that's just this fodder. You know that. But if we're really looking at what's the issue with Zion, why does he get the criticisms that he has? Why it's durability.
Yes.
It's that you're out of all the #1 draft picks, you've played the third least amount of minutes in the first 4 seasons. Only Markelle Fultz and Greg Oden have played less minutes than you. That's the issue.
Right.
So if you figure out that's the problem, it's durability and staying on the court. If you can fix that and finally go, you know what, I'm going to take the onus on me to do that. I believe him, and I'll take him at his word that he's going to do that. And again, when he's in all these like trade rumors and stuff, and maybe he's not the guy to do that, you have to look at age, and why would you give up on a talent like that when you see in a 29-game spurt, he's the most efficient player in NBA history when you're looking at the numbers. So again, I fault Zion for some things. I don't get on him on others because of where he's at, but I will take him at his word when he says, hey, I've got a problem, and I'm going to fix it.
Right. Guys, outside looking in, right? Almost feels like the Pels have walked on eggshells since he got here. That they were burned by Anthony Davis, and they didn't want to be in a situation once again where the first overall pick was going to be pushing his way out of New Orleans by the second contract. And maybe where they should have been a little tougher on him, they weren't, because they didn't want to put him in a situation where there was an adversarial position. And then maybe at some point it got to that point. There was a lot of talk that they weren't getting along with David Griffin, his camp and David Griffin. They signed the contract. He's in New Orleans, says he wants to be here. Now he's got to get healthy and stay on the court.
Yeah, and one other thing that a person that's well-versed in the Saints and Pelicans told me, and I never thought about this, when you're a rookie with the New Orleans Saints, I'm sure people on the outside don't know this, we know this, Fred McAfee takes you under his wing. He finds you an apartment, he gets with the family, he kind of makes sure you're settled, he's checking on these rookies nonstop. The Pelicans don't have a Fred McAfee.
Right.
And this person I talked to made a great point with that they've kind of let him just kind of run wild, and they don't have a Fred McAfee with the Pelicans organization that can kind of, be with them. Like Fred goes out at nighttime with these guys, to kind of make sure they know the town, what to stay away from him. And to be honest, there's not been Saints rookies, second-year guys in a long time that have gotten any kind of trouble. You'd have to go back to maybe the Ricky Williams days there, and Ricky didn't break any laws, but Ricky definitely tore this town to pieces there in the nightlife there. Yeah. So, and Ricky and Zion, when it comes to popularity, are on the very same level.
There you go. Let's talk about the team now. Andrew Lopez of ESPN reported this week they're going to run it back what they have. They've added Cody Zeller. They've lost a few pieces, Hernan Gomez. Obviously, again, Jackson Hayes goes to Los Angeles. They bring in Jordan Hawkins, the first-round pick. I thought they'd have to get an athletic big. They haven't done that yet. Griff said that he's sticking with Valanciunas, whether that's the full season or not. What does this team need, and is it fool's gold trying to go into this season with the same roster with maybe just the addition of Hawkins as maybe your shooter?
I don't know if it's fool's gold. I think it's more we just haven't seen the potential of this, because if you're looking at the three main guys that the Pelicans are centering this around, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum, they played a total of 10 games together. So we don't know if this is going to work or not. Sure. So it's more you go into the season with the same roster simply because you haven't had the capability to have your whole full roster on the court. The bigs are going to be an issue. And when they were mentioning the two guys that could possibly be traded, when you seen the reports, it was Jonas Valanciunas and Kyra Lewis. Right. And I didn't think Jonas was going to be traded just because they need a big, they need an enforcer. They need somebody who can get rebounds, who can play defense, and kind of plug up that middle when Zion wasn't on the court. But yes, finding the athletic big is going to be the key, and when you're playing in this NBA, you don't have the traditional center. You need a guy who is basically fluid 1 through 5, really good at pick and pop. Like, you need a center like that. And you were hoping that maybe Jackson Hayes could figure it out because he's got unworldly athleticism. Like, dude can jump out of the gym and he's 7'1". Like, he's very athletic. He just never clicked. And when you had to deal with all the off the court issues, it just wasn't to be a match. If you could find a big like that, certainly the Pels would have already pursued him and probably signed him. The thing is, you don't see 7'1" guys who are just athletic and shoot. It doesn't show up as much in frequency as you think it does. Yes. So the only way they're going to do that, and it's probably one of those first-round picks that they're going to have to find a big, draft one, and do that, because right now there isn't one in free agency that you go, all right, like, we have that. So what do you have? You have to run it back with Jonas. You got to sign a guy like Cody Zeller. He can be a solid big off the bench. But yeah, that's going to be the big hole, is having that center, because that's what you're going to need when you're playing without Zion on the floor, with the spacing, and you're going to have to go, all right, well, Brandon Ingram's on there. Well, I need a big to not only rebound, but I need him to help in these pick and roll situations and be another threat. That's what they're missing, and that's what, unfortunately, they just can't find in free agency.
Garland?
I think they put on a wall the standings, in December, this past December. They were the 1 seed. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons they're going to try to run it back, is that when these guys were healthy, it was such a little small window that they were all healthy.
And it was the beginning of the season where, remember, after the All-Star break is when teams really start to buckle down for the playoff run, right?
Yeah, so another thing that really I'm not a fan. I cover the team, but it just would drive me crazy is pointing out that they're under the luxury tax. Right. You think fans care that Gail Benson and ownership are gonna get under the luxury tax and they're gonna make money back? I think it's a sign that you don't want to go all in. I mean, the Clippers are like $50 million over the luxury tax. Now, I know it's obviously not working for them. They're dealing with the same kind of injuries with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But if you got ownership behind you, sooner or later they're going to have to go over the luxury tax to win it. Right now, this team maybe is a playoff team, but that's it. But when you're a fan of this team, you want to think about the finals. Yeah. And right now, I don't think that team is a championship team. I think it's right now a 7 seed, maybe a 6 seed. We'll see. Zion, like in Michael Thomas with the Saints, Zion is just a massive unknown. And if he comes back and he's ready to roll, this team could kick some butt in and make the playoffs. But with Michael Thomas the other way, if he's injured, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to finish 9th or 10th. Remember this: David Griffin. What was the highest they finished with in the 4 years that David Griffin's been here? What's the highest they finished? 9 seed. 9. Then they went through the play and got to the playoffs. But in David Griffin's 4 years, the highest they've gotten is a 9 seed.
Great point. By the way, the Pels are $3 million under the luxury tax
right now.
And I'm with you guys. I mean, again, I think again at some point, you're Gail Benson. You've got to spend the money. You've got to prove to the Pelican fans that you're willing to do what you're willing to do with the Saints. They rob Peter to pay Paul. They do whatever they do. They put a football team, a good competitive football team on that field. They got to do the same with the Pels. I want to jump to LSU and Tulane now. How good are the LSU Tigers?
They're good enough to make the college football playoff. Will they get there? It just depends on how they navigate, the SEC. And of course, you look at the speed bumps. It's going to be Alabama, which always is, and then possibly Georgia in the SEC championship, because Georgia's going to have an easy schedule and get to Atlanta. That's not going to be an issue. I think they have the pieces there. I think if you're putting the expectation on Brian Kelly to follow suit of Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson of winning a national championship, there's a good chance. Just things have to kind of fall your way. They have some of the key pieces, and it starts with Jaden Daniels. They have the quarterback in position. He's back for his second season there in that same system. He was taking those leaps and bounds in terms of being a better passer. We saw that growth through the season from the beginning of that Florida State game to what he was doing when he was beating Alabama and getting LSU into the SEC championship. I think they have the pieces. Currently, they're high in the recruiting classes, transfer portal, all the pieces there. They have a team that potentially can get to the college football playoff. We'll see how they navigate those two. And I'll throw a third one in just because I'm a Florida State Seminole. Florida State in Orlando to open the season.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Save best for last.
Yeah, I was about to say, because he was talking about it, I'm like, and to Ricardo's point, if they can get through Florida State in week 1, this is like a rocket ship. They can roll through that schedule. They're only underdogs in one game this season, and that's at Alabama in November. And I think Bama's just going on name alone. Right now in the betting odds, Alabama's like the second betting favorite to win it all. They have 5 quarterbacks right now. They haven't figured out who their quarterback's going to be yet. It could be Jalen Milroe. It could be Tyler Buckner, who they brought from Notre Dame. Ty Simpson possibly. They got a lot of things to figure out, and they got Texas in week 2, so they're gonna be running some pitfalls early in the season. But if LSU can get through Florida State, Jared Verse, if I worked for the LSU, I would be putting video of Jared Verse on those walls. He absolutely torched the LSU offensive line. Now, I know it's the first game together. Now that entire offensive line is back. You got Will Campbell on one side, Emory Jones on the other side. You got Jaden Daniels, who's one of the early Heisman favorites. You got wide receivers. I think Kyron Lacey is now stepping up to be the number 2, number 3 receiver. Malik Neighbors might go in the first round of draft. Yeah. You got another running back. They have now like 8 in the room now that Logan Diggs, who Ricardo and I covered in high school, was fantastic. With Rummel, he can run the ball, he can catch the ball. Harold Perkins, Omar Spates at linebacker. And then Mason Smith is back. He played, one snap against Florida State and injured himself. I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about all these weapons. They forgot Mason Smith was on the defensive line. He could be in the first round of the draft. He was an absolute beast in high school.
Yeah, the Mason Smith is the biggest return for LSU, like by far. And I think if he doesn't get injured in that Florida State game, I think he's more disruptive, and Jordan Travis doesn't have the game that he has, which launched his season. That's going to be the matchup right there. And in week 1, and I'm kind of looking ahead because I'm already excited for this Florida State LSU game.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
That Florida State offensive line last year played beyond expectations. That's the reason why they had the season that they had offensively, was because that offensive line was good. Alex Atkinson, who used to be a Tulane offensive assistant, is the offensive coordinator there. And he gets offensive linemen who are smart guys, they understand a scheme, and they can block. Mason Smith can blow all that stuff up. And that's going to be the matchup when we're looking up there. If he can get to Jordan Travis and disrupt him, and Jordan Travis can't get into the rhythm like he did against LSU last year, it's going to be a long day for Florida State. Mason Smith is by far the biggest return from injury, the biggest key factor, the guy who's potentially going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. If he's on and he's healthy from that knee injury, LSU can go far just by Mason Smith alone.
Tulane, like LSU, has a returning quarterback. They are now, again, the conference has shifted in terms of, again, with a lot of the power players moving on. How good can this Tulane team be?
Yeah, it's crazy to see that Tulane, like their over-under is like 9 wins this season. Coming off the 2-10 season 2 years ago, now they're expected. Week 2, Ole Miss is coming to them. If they could beat Ole Miss, this will be a fun season, because in the AAC, you saw Big 12 Media Days are going on right now. Houston's there, Cincinnati's there, UCF's there. The teams coming in their places are much weaker than the ones that just left the conference. As Willie Fritz will say, hey, Garland, we beat those teams last year, so that's not a big deal. They're the favorites. I think the one spot that's really going to hurt is linebacker. Losing Nick Anderson and Dorian Williams. Those were fantastic linebackers, but they got Sincere Hayes back.
And they brought the kid in from from Louisiana Tech who's a tackling machine at linebacker.
Oh, Tyler Grubbs, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember covering him in high school. Shoddy Clayton Johnson's back there, running back. Jaquan Jackson's a receiver. So they got some guys. But as you said, there's not a lot of guys on Tulane that are making like real NIL money. There's one guy making real NIL money, and they got that money together for Michael Pratt because Florida was desperate for a quarterback this offseason, and there's no doubt they were going after him. So they got the money together. The alumni did, and they were smart. 10-2, I think or 11-1 is a great season for them, and I think they can get there. Ole Miss in week 2, they're not going to know who they are yet in week 2. It's going to be 2:30 in the afternoon. It's going to be 1,000 degrees on that turf. Some crazy things can happen at 2:30 on a September 9th. Gosh, bring a lot of water and your sunscreen.
Lane Kiffin will probably just call whatever he wants there. It's going to be a wild game there. When you're a group of 5 team, there's either two things that are going to either you are loaded with seniors and you've just got a lot of talent, or you have a talented quarterback, and especially if you're in a watered down AAC this year. If you have a quarterback like Michael Pratt, who's by far the best quarterback in that conference, you certainly can win the conference, get to 9 or 10 games, and that's good. I think that we wanted to see them just kind of build on this, and I don't expect that like drastic fall off from a 10-2 like you would normally see. Like, great season, how's the program going? Retaining Willie Fritz and him not going to Georgia Tech was big for Tulane. Now that he can go, all right, I'm here, I'm committed, we can do all of this. They can raise NIL money. They can, they can get these recruits and keep them in the program. You don't have a outflux of guys leaving in the transfer portal. And again, having Michael Pratt leading that team, you put Tulane in a really good spot to repeat as conference champions.
A lot of pressure, though, coming off of a Cotton Bowl. There's going to be a lot of expectations for this team.
Yeah, South Alabama in week 1, you expect them to win that game. I would hope that they wouldn't look past to Ole Miss to come in there. I mean, they're the favorites in the AAC. There's no doubt about it. I couldn't tell you maybe Memphis will give.
Texas San Antonio's got a pretty good program.
TSA's had for the last couple of years. They've been very talented. They've won 10 games, I think.
Don't overlook. I don't think you go in this conference to overlook them coming in.
Florida Atlantic is joining there too. So they got the ones coming in are not as tough. But we're in crazy times right now. That we're talking about a dominant Tulane program where I expect them to be sold out. They should be sold out games. They got Southern Miss in week 3 on the road. That could be a little pitfall too. But I think everything sets up nicely for them to do some major damage here.
Final word, Ricardo, pardon me.
Yeah, and I think again, Tulane has to be the favorites. And I think the recruiting has been up. Like, it's been a steady kind of increase in terms of what Willie Fritz has brought into this program. The transfer portal has been big for them. They have gotten some key transfers that happened in the last year's 10-2 team. They've got some good transfers as well. They hadn't lost as many guys. So I think when you just look overall at Tulane, yes, they can sustain this success moving forward.
And I know we concentrate on Pratt, but that's not a bad quarterback room they have there as well.
Yeah,
Kai Horton came in and played well for them. We're still waiting on Ibieta.
Ibieta's in his 4th year at Tulane. Can you believe that? He's about to get his undergrad degree, and I talked to him a month or so ago about it, and he's like, Garland, I'll get like 2 degrees. He's like, if I have a shot next year to be the starting quarterback, then I'm going to take it. So Justin Ibieta's going nowhere. He's going to ride this thing out. I mean, he got his shot, but just go out of bounds next time. Go out of bounds.
Exactly. Well, guys, thanks so much. Great panel as well, as always. Again, Ricardo LeCompte of Channel 4 Sports, Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. Appreciate your time today. It was a great panel as always. All right. Thanks for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen. Click it. It'll take you either to my website, ericasher.com, or the WLAE-TV YouTube page. As I mentioned, a lot of ways to catch our program. There's a list up there for you. You can set your DVR on your favorite time, and you'll never miss the show. Also, you can catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM, Nash Icon. That is 4 to 6 weekdays. Listen live at ericasher.com, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms. Also, again, check us out with our podcast, which is on all major podcasting platforms. Anchor, Spotify is the home base on all podcasting platforms. I want to thank our underwriters who make our show possible. Please support our underwriters. And also, again, we want to thank the WLAE-TV production staff, which do a great job. Rod Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Logan Graffia, Danielle Wick, also Alex Chacon, and our director, William Hill. For Ricardo LeCompte, for Garland Gillen, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll see you next week.